What is your face worth? We have here a simple mannequin head here. What if you could put anybody's face on this mannequin? Let's take a look here at some of the possibilities, shall we? I'm not going to do it with this particular mannequin, but this is just a little symbol. So let's look at the movie here. If you guys can see.
About anything you want to eat or drink. And since number one, I wasn't hungry but thirsty, and number two, they was free, I must have drank me about 15 Dr. Peppers.
Congratulations. How does it feel to be an All-American?
It's an honor, sir.
Congratulations. How does it feel to be an All-American?
Very good, sir.
Congratulations. How does it feel to be an All-American?
Very good, sir.
Congratulations. How do you feel?
I gotta pee.
I believe he said he had to go pee.
Okay, so that example is an example of what we call special visual effects, and that's nothing extraordinary here. At the time, it was cutting edge technology in order to create this special effect of applying a series of effects onto President Kennedy's face to make it look as if he's speaking to the character played by Tom Hanks at the time. Now, at that time, it was cutting edge. That, I don't know, was it 20 years ago? How long ago was Forrest Gump here? We love Forrest Gump. It was Academy Award winning blockbuster movie at the time when we used to go to the theater and we used to anticipate these movies. It was humongous. Just those special effects that was applied to different things was incredible. Now, with technology that we have all around us here, we can change special effects in a blink, right? We can change our backgrounds in an instant, right? We can have animated backgrounds and doing crazy things here. We can put ourselves in any number of different scenarios instantly, as we all know through our fun that we have with Zoom on a regular basis, right? The challenge here is, while it's fun, hello, can you hear me? I'm on TV. Hi. This connection is a little bit, hold on, give me 1 second. Give me get back to where I was. Okay, terrific. Good to see you. If we can change our backgrounds as easy as we're able to change our faces, this is the question that I'm going to have for all of us. Can we actually change our faces when it comes time to, in the future? We'll be able to recognize the changes in our faces as well. That's the challenge that I have with all of us. So let's take a look here at something more recent. Let's cue this up.
A viral hit on TikTok, or has he?
That's freaky, man. We're living in freaky times right now.
Looks exactly like Tom Cruise.
In this reel, you're gonna see my amigo, Chris Umi. He's gonna introduce to you the wonderful world of deepfakes, how AI and VFX are unlocking the future of our imagination.
I made the Tom Cruise deepfake, and it was one of the biggest viral deepfake videos on the internet ever. I'm Chris, and I'm a VFX and AI artist. I'm trained as a cameraman. I've been doing VFX for about 8 years. The first time I heard about deepfakes is the end of 2018. It was on a new channel where they were talking about people misusing the technology in pornographic videos. And that made me realize there were a lot of creative possibilities. A deepfake is a video where someone's face has been changed into another. So, for example, in the videos I make with Miles Fisher, you don't see Miles Fisher's face, no, you see Tom Cruise's face. I just overlaid it on top of Miles.
With your help in 2020, together, we'll dominate the ballot box. This is no stunt.
The way I train a deepfake is where I tell a computer model to start training on thousands of images of a certain character. In my case, it's Tom Cruise. Thousands of images, all his expressions, all his angles. So in the end, I have like one big model, and it's like one big Tom Cruise model.
Okay, we're going to stop there. Now, the concept here should be clear. You're replacing somebody's face with a computer. By the way, there's new technologies now with augmented reality. You'll notice here I have a little bit of augmented reality here where I can, just by signaling the screen, I can put up a a hand here, or I can make a thumb, or I can get on the phone, or I can tell Alan, I love you. Right? So we have the ability to do all these things now with this new technology. And now what if you could, as easily as I give you the thumbs up, what if I could change my face? Okay, now for me, it might not be a big deal. I say, so what? However, what if we made something like this? I'm going to apply this in this very fun homage to the Queen that was for the beginning of 2021, I believe here. You get the idea of how realistic some of these effects can be. And obviously, these are very fun. Now, when it comes to how this was constructed, this shows you a little bit of the sequence of how something like this was accomplished in a studio.
In some small way, an attempt to kind of correct that a little bit and have something to say about technology and how it's utilized.
But at least I still have my beloved Andrew close by.
We started talking about the tone of the script.
And you can see here from the actress.
Caricaturing
this is the actress who played the Queen.
I have to make it as real as possible because it has to match up to the face looking exactly like the much footage.
She had a lot of fun doing it.
I'd watched quite a lot anyway because
it's a big production. These are giant productions right now. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of computer power to be able to do this right now.
Presenting information in all.
So why is that? Why am I mentioning that? Well, I'm mentioning that here because here's another possibility now as this becomes easier and easier to do.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time.
Jordan Peele created this fake video of President Obama to demonstrate how easy it is to put words in someone else's mouth.
Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet.
Not everyone bought it, but the technology behind such frauds is rapidly improving, even as worries increase about their potential for harm. This is your Bloomberg Quick Take on deepfakes. Deepfakes, or realistic-looking fake videos and audio, gained popularity as a means of adding famous actresses into porn scenes. Despite bans on major websites, they remain easy to make and find. They're named for the deep learning artificial intelligence algorithms that make them possible. Input real audio or video of a specific person, the more the better, and the software tries to recognize patterns in speech and movement.
I'm going to stop right there. So you guys get the idea with what's going on here. I'm going to just stop sharing. Is that working? Okay, good. So you guys get the idea of what's possible now as a result of this technology. And because this is an ad hoc presentation, the concept here was to just kind of spark some discussion a bit. And the discussion essentially is what happens if you get a phone call from our dear friend Sydney Mobell, or even a video phone call, a FaceTime phone call from Sydney Mobell telling you that he is stuck down at the San Mateo train station here, and could you do him a favor and pick him up? Now, today, we would look at that video and we'd see Sydney here on his phone, and we said, oh my gosh, yeah, I'll be there right away. Of course, how many, of course, is gonna just go drop whatever they're doing and make sure Sydney's okay? Probably everybody in this room, right? Or they're gonna call somebody. Somebody's gonna make sure Sydney gets picked up. But what if that was just me in my studio here in San Francisco? Or what if that was some disreputable person online somewhere here ready to pounce upon you the moment that you get there? The trouble here is that these technologies, as they're becoming more and more able to mimic people over the phone, and you could theoretically put anybody's face onto your face, causes a lot of questions for society, right? About trust, and about your face specifically. So I made a comment to some of our friends who are professional speakers, and think about it like this. There's different types of ways to change your face or to have somebody else's persona. It can be a computer simulation. It could be augmented reality. It could be prosthetic makeup. It could be any number of these things. The trouble is everything is getting more and more realistic. It's much harder and harder to tell the distinction between what is real and what is fake. That has big consequences here for law enforcement. And I talked to Bill Buchanan about this yesterday here because of how much our justice system relies, and prosecutors and police rely on video surveillance technology here. Well, what if I could put somebody else's face on somebody else's body conducting a crime of some sort or something salacious here? And how will we as a society understand if this is the real thing or not? These are big challenges and big questions that we need to be able to ask ourselves. And as the computing power gets more and more capable on the phone, you will not need these gigantic productions and multi-million-dollar sets to be able to create these special effects. Anybody will be able to do it. And so what regulations, what issues do we need to consider as a society in order to make this work? Here's another issue. We talked about, at least I mentioned the topic of dominion. So somebody like Marilyn Monroe or President Kennedy or Fred Astaire or somebody, their likeness can easily now be manipulated here and placed on somebody's body to hawk vacuum cleaners and cola and travel to Argentina and what have you. Now there are not dominion laws, apparently, enough dominion laws to be able to protect your face, or maybe there are. We'll have a discussion about this. If you're a public speaker, here's the bigger challenge. If that wasn't worrisome enough, what if I told you I could create a program, or a program could be created with your exact license, exact likeness, and I can determine the words that would come out of your mouth, and I could put you in any physical environment and have you speak ad hoc about a topic leveraging AI. Very soon, we could have Ricky Wilson on stage at the show doing a performance of I don't know, Cats, perhaps. And you would not be able to tell that it was not Ricky Wilson. The voice will be AI generated. The face will be AI generated. The scenario will be AI generated, and everything will look real, including the little glitches that sometimes you see in videos. All of these are by design to make it look authentic and real. And so the space between real and virtual is meshing at the most rapid pace. It's something that actually concerns me quite a bit. If you're a public speaker, think about this for a moment. You make your living by presenting on stage. Well, what if I could just create a synthetic public speaker? I could create my own Patricia Fripp, right? And maybe I change the face a little bit here. I change the tone here, and I have the same kind of dynamic speeches, and I can just virtually present Patricia anywhere all the time. Well, if you're Patricia Fripp, that might be a good thing here. I can just send out my Patricia Fripps and be speaking all over the place, and I can do multiple gigs per day. But that's great if I'm in control of my Patricia Fripps. But what if somebody is placing a Patricia Fripp at an event that is not under my control? So I think what I'll do is I'll leave it at that. I hope you got a sense of what's possible with this new technology here, and I'd love to open up for questions and discussion. I hope that was you found that interesting.
Yeah, I did have a question. How did you were all the backgrounds that you used? Did you do that in Zoom, or is there some other application that you use? Because, like, for example, I wanted to key out the white background in this monologue I did this past Sunday, and I attempted to do it in Adobe Premiere without much success. So, at any rate. What application did you use? Or is it just in Zoom?
Antonio, you're muted.
Antonio.
Thank you. So it's Zoom. You can do this in Zoom. This just requires a green screen here.
Okay.
A green screen here. Right?
Okay.
And the green screen allows you to key out much more easily in Zoom.
Yeah, I figured as much. I mean, in retrospect, I should have shot my thing in front of a chroma key cloth, which I do have. But,
right.
It didn't occur to me at the time.
Right.
Thanks.
You bet. So, Bill, I wanted to chat with Bill for a moment. Bill's on the call here. We talked about potential issues with law enforcement, and obviously Bill is not focused on this area here with his retirement, but I'm curious, Bill, what are your thoughts about, you saw the footage with Forrest Gump and Candy, you could still tell it was kind of phony. What happens when you cannot make the distinction between reality and something that is artificial when it comes to law enforcement and reviewing footage for evidence? What are your just general thoughts about it?
Well, as we've seen, cameras, video security camera
technology has become very, very important in law enforcement these days. Many of these crimes have been solved because we have an image of the perpetrator. That's terrific. Now, what I don't see that this IT technology, video technology, would be much use to the street criminal. But when you get into more sophisticated crimes, like white collar crime or something like that, it could be useful, I suppose. But one thing that disturbs me is how bad actors at another level could use IT. For instance, here's a scenario for you. As we know, we've got a hair trigger situation over there in Ukraine. What if someone produced a video like of the Queen, only it's supposed to be President Zelensky of Ukraine on video? It's a high alert special bulletin coming out from Kiev. And that is that we have determined that Russian armored air and naval forces are about to attack Ukraine. Therefore, we are releasing our forces now, and they will be attacking Russian forces as of now. This is all perpetrated by the one unit in the KGB. As we know, Putin was a KGB officer, high risk guy, by the way. I mean, it's kind of science fiction, but we already know we've gotten some red flag warnings already from our own intelligence services that it's possible, perhaps not probable at this point, that the Russian military intelligence folks, or whatever level of intelligence would be appropriate, could interrupt our power grid with cyber attacks. Now, if you can do a cyber attack, I mean, that's basically an act of war. And we'll have to figure out how to handle that. We're hoping that our intelligence services are up to the high level of technological expertise that would take, to counter it. But why not do something like make a false video of the president of Ukraine ordering his armed forces to attack Russia? I mean, is that a perfect excuse for Putin to say, hey, you got the green light, boys, crank them up, let's go?
Yeah. And the way that we're doing it now here is that you can do this in multiple ways. You can pre-record something, apply special effects to it, and broadcast it live. Or you can use technology like I'm using right now and actually simulate something in a realistic way and broadcast it live in real time. Mm-hmm. So the challenge here is when you cannot tell what's happening now versus what's been pre-recorded, right? Then you have this sense of disbelief. You have this belief, this trust in what you're looking at, right? And so that's the challenge that we have here, now with this. And you can imagine, bad actors creating these scenarios where they're broadcasting in real time, showing today's paper, doing different things here, looking at the watch, talking about the time. These are accurate things that are happening, and they're not saying what they're actually saying, right?
And you mentioned, Antonio, you mentioned earlier the video of Sydney Mobile down at the bus station. I don't use FaceTime at all, actually. I've used it a couple times. But as we know, we regularly, you will get emails from somebody who's in dire straits. They're in Rome and they were attacked and everything is stolen. I need help. I don't have to tell you what details are, but basically it's an email version of, hey, help me. And it's an impersonation of someone that sprinkled with little identification factors that they may think you'll recognize. Well, what about a FaceTime, a bogus FaceTime appeal? I mean, how difficult technologically would that be to pull off?
Yeah, it's not impossible. A bit of technical wizardry would require to do it. I almost decided to do it today with Sydney, but we didn't have enough time to do it. But I was going to show you a demonstration with Sydney. The other challenge here is that it's not just the video technology, which is improving and escalating in its ability to be realistic. It's audio technology, even just over the phone, talking to you. Hey, Anastasia, here's Antonio here. I'm just outside here, at your driveway here. I fell down. Do you think you could help me up? Or Steven here. I'm going to meet you at the coffee shop or what have you. You can have AI voices that can say any script. And so the challenge here is, as you see get text from your friend, the Nigerian prince here, who wants to deposit $1 million in your bank here, that's okay because we all know the scam. What happens when these happens in real time, when I use your specific name in video or audio? These things shift the dilemma in a big way, so that just as I'm speaking to you now, right now, we have a pretty good indication that this is real, right? The challenge here is in even a year, everybody says 5 years from now, 10 years from now, in a year, you will see examples of somebody trying to apply this either audio or video in some kind of way to create some kind of dastardly deed of some sort. And in 5 years, it's going to be as pervasive in my mind here, unless we do something about it, unless we have some laws and regulations and some legislation against making representations in this kind of way. So, Alan, you had a question, and then Anastasia.
Well, actually, not really a question, but
a comment. Sorry.
Looking at all this stuff that you've been doing, I'm going to now stop trying to get rid of mask mandates. I think if everybody's wearing a mask now, we won't have to worry about this anymore.
Love it. we got big problems coming. Actually, we got much bigger problems happening, right? Anastasia, you had a comment, and then Anastasia, and then Stephen.
Yeah, so like, what do we do about it? It's sad to think that we might have to get to a point where we have code words with people that we know, or we have to say, hey, just a normal conversation, like, tell me something that only I would know. Because that then forces us to be in a space of continual distrust, which is not good energetically for the world. But I'm wondering how, when it's video, someone like that, can we check its properties? Like, if we see something, because one of the things that frustrates me is stuff, especially through social media, that people just, spread the word. They just keep adding it, they forward it, they share it, all that kind of stuff without checking its authenticity. I know, like with photographs and things like that, you can look at properties. Can you do something like that with video? I'm curious about that. And then the other thing is, the big question, what do we do? Because just making it illegal doesn't matter, because the people who are going to do it don't give a dead rat's what about it being illegal to begin with. So how do we do that? I am curious, but I'm also really kind of like freaked out and scared at the same time. So
yeah. So here's the deal. The idea is that right now it's entertaining, right? And it's fun. And my point with this here is, I'm thinking down the road here, and Janice even mentioned here, of course, that you get robocalls now with these computerized voices here. This is the IRS, or this is the sheriff's department, or this is whoever. Well, what happens as soon as that audio technology improves more and more? It sounds like a real person, and that's happening on a regular basis. So I could change my voice instantly, or I could add any number of voices, and I can do these robocalls, and it'll be more and more easier for me to be able to compel somebody that I'm real and this is a real thing that they need to address. And if I can mimic somebody's voice using computer simulated technology, artificial intelligence here, and it actually sounds like the person that I want it to sound like, we're going to have some really big challenges here. So, if you are in control of your face, which I got that idea from Lisa, the Lancernaut, that offers you some level of protection, I would think, but it doesn't keep people, bad actors, from being able to do terrible deeds in this kind of way. But we do need some kind of ways to authenticate people as this technology becomes more and more viable to fool us in a way that we don't want to be fooled. We don't mind being fooled if it's Forrest Gump, or if I'm doing something silly here in front of all you and you guys all know ahead of time. Well, what happens when you don't know ahead of time? And any other comments? Stephen.
This isn't happening in the future. This has already happened. I have lost thousands of dollars by someone getting into my bank account, and I have been at my bank. I'm going this afternoon. I'm going this morning. It has been an absolute nightmare.
I'm so
and
sorry.
It brings me to tears. And
I'm so sorry.
We've gotten, I won't go into the details, but we've gotten $4,000 back, another $2,000 we might have lost. And somebody's in our account, and I won't go into it. It brings me to tears. So
I'm so terribly sorry, Stephen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, if anything, if anything, the idea is just have this in the back of your mind. We always need to be secure, especially if we're online. Something to think about. If you have even a tiniest bit of suspicion about something here, Anastasia made a good point here. Tell me something that only I would know, or something like that. And be cautious about that. Carl, I think you had some comment, and then Ricky, and then Susan.
Yeah. What really worries me is we've already seen interference with our elections. And what about robocalls? What about things, video spread on the internet that would just delight the people who love conspiracy theories? And unfortunately, there are tens of millions of them in this country. It could foment civil war. It could foment war with other countries. It can foment really large events.
People were fighting not too long ago just about what if a dress was green or was it blue. Yeah. People were having fights about that on social media, right? Yeah. So we don't even have to get into the politics of this. And probably today is like a terrible day to do it. But the idea would be, simple things that we all seem to trust at some point, can be brought into question. It's not happening today, although it could. But here's one other thing just to point out. Think about how terrible sometimes the phone reception is. You see somebody, it's kind of gravelly, it's not sharp resolution, and that is a prime scenario for offering a fake video, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, right? Something that looks digitally manipulated, or hey, I've got a bad connection, right? I'm calling from back. All those things can be faked. And if I fake something that has some static or some artificialness or some interference of something, it adds a sense of realism to our normal calls or our normal video photos or so on. So you almost believe it more when there's some artificialness incorporated into the video. Not necessarily fake mouth or what have you, but basically these things don't have to be polished in order to be effective and successful, right? And Ricky, you had a comment. You're on mute. You're on mute, Ricky. You're on mute, Ricky.
I got it. 7 years ago, when I became president of the Rotary Club of Sebastopol, I had to learn PowerPoint. So I went to Santa Rosa Junior College and I took a course in PowerPoint, and the teacher was absolutely fascinating. And his final lecture had nothing to do with PowerPoint. He spent the entire day talking about how if you do your banking virtually or by computer, that you are inviting the kind of trouble that Stephen has recently sadly encountered. And for me, I will die going in the bank, talking to the cute little girl and walking out with a piece of paper. And I believe that that's the only way you can protect yourself from what Stephen has just demonstrated that he's going through.
Yeah. And Jim, thank you, Ricky. Yeah, I hear you. Susan, and then Jim. Sorry.
Okay. I received something from someone who I love and adore, who is the conspiracy theorist, and it was a video of Pope Francis making a speech that at one point had anti-Semitic comments. And if anyone knows Pope Francis's background, and one of his best friends is the rabbi from Argentina, you would know that that wouldn't be true. So I actually saw that they used this deep fake Pope, and I actually had to call my friend and process this out with him. He is a conspiracy theorist. He believed it. But once I said that, I mean, to me, it's frustrating. The comment I have is, my own brother caught me sending something that he wrote me back and said, this isn't true, and sent me the Snopes thing. This was about Obama. And I learned not to send anything. And I wonder, is there a Snopes for deep fake videos that we could send things to that they would let us know if they're real or not?
Yeah, and that's a great point, Susan, because sites like Snopes and so on, to a certain degree, they have trust here. What happens when even Snopes doesn't have trust is the problem, right? So that there's some challenges with that. And by the way, you don't have to have all this supercomputer technology to do these to create these things. I could take actual video with real people and simply re-edit it in a way to have them answer something out of context, and then broadcast that. And you could, and that's done all the time on a regular basis, right? So taking things out of context on video is already problematic here. And we see people doing that all the time in any number of capacities, right? So, but what happens when I'm actually having a conversation with you and you don't know that's not actually me having a real conversation? The conversation is real, but the person behind it isn't real. Right, but you think that it is. This is where we can live in Forrest Gump. We're already starting to live in this, and I tell you, as you guys already have seen, all the capabilities on this phone is getting better and better all the time. So you talk about what's in it for the criminals. What's in it for the criminals here is that if your reputation is based upon social media, and social media is your reputation, and people make split-second decisions if you're a good actor or a bad actor, or in my case, a terrible, untalented actor, right? Then the issue here is, can I ruin your reputation? Even if I'm not doing something to take money, just ruin your reputation, right? Here's Antonio going here and knocking over an old lady, right? Terrible Antonio. And it gets spread across social media, right? And everybody says, oh, he sucked. I always knew he was a bad guy, right? Instantly. People don't bother in many cases to even verify if something is right. As soon as something comes out that says, I kind of knew it, or that sucks and terrible, or I'm shocked here, and they don't bother to do any kind of level of critical thinking. And so one thing perhaps maybe if we could talk about here is the level of critical thinking that we have to be teaching in our schools is so vital, right? And the idea here of verification and deep thought and not reacting instantaneously to things and verifying, right? We even had this idea here, trust but verify from President Reagan back in the day, right? Trust but verify, right? So this idea of teaching critical thinking, teaching verification techniques to people, these are things that I think we should be talking about here. And so Anastasia, okay, you have it. So yeah, I'm with you. And I think Janice or Anastasia said something like, you think people are misrepresenting themselves, try online dating.
I could write a book, I'm telling you. And I only did it for a little bit of time, but you would be shocked. Like one guy, seriously, he sent me a picture of his California driver's license. And right. I mean, it was as real as it can get. He was just setting me up. I'm like, at that point, I'm playing him because I knew, but I was able to actually find the man, find photos of him sitting on a couch in his home that were found online. And it's just shocking. So one thing I just want to throw in here, yes, you can correct things. So let's say there's a deep fake and it shows you throwing that lady down in the street. And then it gets spread all over the place. And then everybody comes back and they find out that it was not true, that it was a deep fake. The damage is done. Because we can't remove that image in our minds because we saw it. And our bodies, our heart, our soul is trained to believe what we see. And there's nothing you can do to ever remove that, even though you know logically after the fact that it was a deep fake. It's still there. And this is really...
Yeah, and not only that, I thought about a couple thoughts for you guys. One is, what if I actually did something terrible? And then my argument is, that's a deep fake. You're looking at a deep fake. And you can't tell the difference between what's real and a deep fake. So I could potentially, right, use that as a defense. And by the way, tell me how many people believe somebody's going to try to use that as a defense at some point down the road. For sure, somebody's going to try to use that as a defense. That's a deep fake. People are already saying fake news, right? Now it's fake video. Fake, and the video doesn't have to be artificial video. It could be edited video, doctored video, any number of things, right? So now if that's a defense and attorneys can use this in a litigation situation, Alan, I'm curious as an attorney, what your thoughts about that?
Well, one thing is I know that, and I don't know that much about computers, but there's something called, I think, metadata. And if someone's going to use that as a defense, I think, and you tell me you would know better, you could get into the computer and actually see point by point where the edits were, and to be able to disprove what the guy's using as his defense. Is that not true?
That's true in certain scenarios, right? But and you're right. Those are ways right now that we can verify certain facts and establish some particular facts in any scenario here. What happens when, obviously, if it's data, it can be manipulated, right? Including metadata.
I mean, we've done that in some cases where you get discovery and you need to get the actual computer, the hard drive off the computer. And then the computer technicians go in there and they can tell exactly, for example, a simplistic thing is when a document was generated and when it was edited. And someone will say, well, here's a document dated on such and such a day. And you go into the metadata and you find out that actually it was done 3 days earlier with different verbiage, and they've changed things. So you can use that. And I would think that the technology would be such that you could do the same thing with video.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about like doing one of your type of cases here where it's a situation with an employee who is suing the employer for some kind of wrongful termination, and the employer has some video of that employee doing something dastardly, right? And that's faked, right? And now they're using that, in the case here, and now you're gonna have to overcome this terrible scenario here where these cases become far more expensive to address because you're going to need to be specialist in this area to be able to address them. So look, this is much like a magic trick, right? It's very fun if you know that you're about to watch a magic trick, right? And you're ready to enjoy something. It's not so fun if you don't know it's a magic trick, right? And it could be terrible if you don't know it's a magic trick. I think the idea here, if you're Patricia Fripp and you're in charge of all of your virtual Patricia Fripps, right, then it could be a boon for you because you can take every single speaking gig that you want and you could be speaking at 10 different events every single day on the hour, right? If you are in control, right? Now, let me offer you something else. This is something that just kind of popped in my brain. It's kind of a crazy thought. But imagine this. AI technology is getting so good. I can tell by scraping Google what the trends are, what the interest is, what people are buying on Amazon. Netflix uses topics like this to create movie ideas based upon trends and things that are going on. Well, what if there's an AI application that scraped information for trends, scraped information for user interest, and was able to use AI to create a script for a televised or a broadcast video of some sort? That same AI could create artificial characters, synthetic characters. That same AI could create an artificial words coming out of these people's mouth, right? And create a movie around an interesting topic with everything being artificial intelligence. The only thing that would be artificial is the money that you would pay to see that movie. So what happens to actors now? We don't have to worry about The Rock having his face stolen or Marilyn Monroe or Elvis. Computer technologists know what faces are most popular and create an algorithm and create the most amazing face. Not from my perspective, but from your individual perspective. Imagine a movie where every single person watching that movie sees a different leading actor or actress, because we know that that face is going to compel you to have a certain emotional reaction. Could you imagine that? I've never heard of anything like this at this point here, but I can imagine something like this happening. Craig, I know that you're going to want somebody here with short hair. Alan, I know you're going to want somebody with long hair. Where is Arlen? Arlen, I know you're going to want somebody with no hair, right? So these are the actors that are going to be the leading role here, and they are swapped out based upon our interest, right? Because we have an emotional attachment or connection with that kind of person. Right. So these are things that can be happening as this technology gets more and more advanced, and we want and large companies and media firms want to provide us a more individualized way of receiving our information. They know that there's certain things that we like and they want to give it to us. Right. So that would mean the actors would be one of those things too. I don't want to see that movie because that has that lady in it and I don't like her. Or that dude here bothers me. Well, what if that same movie had this other dude? Or what if you could just choose? I'd like to see Craig Adams playing the role of Robert De Niro in The Irishman. Click, right? Boom. How crazy would that be? Right, and I bet he'd do a terrific job. Alan, you gonna say something?
Yeah, how do we know that this is actually you?
That's right. That's the problem, right? You can tell from my terrible jokes right now. Right now, you can tell from my terrible jokes, but these might be programmed in the future. So wouldn't that be a waste of programming? Oh my gosh. Yeah, Bill.
Well, we've been talking about some really high-tech stuff, this artificial intelligence and all that sort of thing. Let's go back to 1984. I'm sitting in my folks' living room in Los Altos. It's a family gathering. They want to see the latest slides, color slides of our wilderness trip that we took, a month prior. So we're going through the slides. This is Kodachrome 64, and various slides of our trip going in, that sort of thing, camp, scenic stuff. All of a sudden, we got a photograph taken at night of 8 people standing together, and it's just a flash shot. And then I click to the next shot, and my dad says, "Hold it, click it back." And he had seen something that triggered suspicion on his part, and he realized then that he'd been scammed. He said, "Okay, explain how you did that." I said, "Well, there were really only 4 people on the trip, Dad. But what we did was he took that first flash shot, and then I told everybody, okay, take 1 step to the left, change clothes, put on a different hat, it's a multiple exposure technique, old photographers like us. So we take the second shot, it's a multiple shot of 8 people, but it almost worked. Mom didn't get it. So, talk about difference in technology, right?
That's right. Patricia, I think you had a comment? Oh, sorry, Alan.
I've done that. In the old days with the old cameras, you could do that. Double exposure. It's easy.
Patricia? And then Arlen.
I just think this is a fascinating conversation. It really is scary when you think of fake news. I have to make a personal comment, and that your hair, Antonio, is the perfect length. It's better than it's ever been all the time I've known you.
Thank you. I'll compliment my stylist on that. Thank you, Patricia. You know what? This popped into my mind. What about gambling? If somebody's gambling and they bet on a game, and that game can be, we all talk about these scams for gambling, like the Sting and all these different things that people faking that. Now think about, you bet on a game or some type of thing happening and it can be faked, and now you can dispute a gambling debt. Oh my, as a matter of fact, that might save us. That actually may save us. The people who lose money on gambling may come up with the technology in order to solve this problem, because too much money will be lost as a result of this. It could shut down gambling as we know it. And by the way, with all great technologies, as you heard earlier, it started off with people trying to put different faces on pornographic actors and actresses, right? So just like the internet itself here was funded by pornography, now this technology is doing the same thing here. So the challenge here is knowing, being cautious, having healthy skepticism here, and knowing what's possible down the road. There is a thing potentially with what's talking about with NFTs. And Lisa, I don't know if you have a comment about this here, but this idea of NFTs and owning your digital presence, this concept here, and I'm not savvy enough to be able to talk intelligently about it, but the idea of having something that is documented in the blockchain, and that's again another topic for us, but basically something that's so rooted in the fabric of our technology that there is a digital verification of everything that you do digitally based upon your specific persona or presence or image or so on. Lisa, I don't know if you have any comment about that at all.
I mean, that's a lot. That's a whole talk within itself. I don't think you can cover all those bullet points in like 30 seconds for real, because it's something that every major corporation is trying to figure out to provide value and utility in their corporation, and as well as artists and people who want to delve into that space and make sure that they're making the right choice with buying and trading the selling of those NFTs. I mean, people are it's the wild, wild west. That's all I can say. That's really what it is. People are trying to see how this will impact the future and if it's a fad or if it's here to stay.
Yeah, perfectly. Well said. Well, I don't know if there are any other comments or questions about this. I tell you what, here's the thing. If I had an extra maybe 2 days, I probably could have done something that might have passed with Sydney going through this concept of the video call here, but it was just a little bit too short notice for me to be able to turn something like that around. But the fact that I could even think that I could get away with it in a couple of days is a little bit concerning to me. In my little studio here in the garage. Right. So,
did a great job anyway.
Thank you, guys. Hey, Jim, did you have a comment?
I have a comment.
Oh, and Arlen. So Arlen and then Jim. Sorry.
I just wanted to say that some of this technology is required, like at the IRS and the Franchise Tax Board, us professionals, we have to file things electronically. If you make a payment to the Franchise Tax Board electronically, you're locked in forever. And so, you're giving bank information to all these people, and it's required, it's mandatory. So sometimes you just can't, bail out of that stuff. And a lot of the other payments are required to make payments electronically. So that's a little scary.
Yeah, here and then I saw who was after Arlen. Jim.
Last year I told you that all my personal information was compromised, and when I contacted the financial institutions, for example, if anybody tries to do anything at Bank of America, including me, they send me a code in my iPhone, and I have to send it to them before I get anything. That didn't protect me all that much. And then I have 3 or 4 credit watch agencies watching out for me as well. It doesn't stop me from getting phone calls from around the world, but when the area code is not known by me, I don't even bother answering it, and they don't leave messages. So, but the idea of the bank having it give me a code, is there any way that people could get that code?
Well, that's a good question, and I can't talk to that, but I can say one thing based upon that is if you are not familiar with what's called two-step verification, please look at it, especially at all your banks here. Two-step verification is a vital thing. Especially, I rely upon it greatly for any application that I have. I always ask for two-step verification so that if I'm logging into something, it sends me an alert on my phone right away, and I can verify that it's actually me doing this thing. If you don't have two-step verification, or if you have very simple passwords, you would be shocked. I've had people be able to just tell me what my password is when I used kind of ordinary passwords back in the day, and now I use the toughest passwords across the board all the time. It's a bit of a hassle, but I tell you what, it's something that at least if you can try to safeguard yourself a bit here, it's something that I would recommend. So if you don't have two-step verification or two-step, please make sure that you're talking to your bankers and to the people with important things to make sure that you have the highest level of verification on whatever you're doing, especially if it's an important topic like that. So Jim, one other thing?
One more thing is I also have Norton on my computers, and they're pretty good at catching bad things, and you get messages on it. I don't know if it's perfect, but it makes me feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah, that's key. That's key. Yeah, and as Carl says, yes, for sure, a great idea to change your passwords regularly, even if they're complicated ones here. So the more we're online, the more likely that password gets out into the dark web, and bad actors get a chance to be able to take on that.